Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Wicked Sports Podcast for January 27th, 2025. Lots of football news to cover. Maybe you heard there's some conference championship games. Tickets were punched to the Super Bowl. Narratives were formed and supported. And let's start off first with the Philadelphia Eagles defeating the Washington Commanders 55-23. So a blowout. It was somewhat competitive in the first half, ending 27-15, but second half and specifically the fourth quarter, the Eagles pulled away, scored 21 points in the fourth, outscored the Commanders 28-8 in the second half to punch their ticket to the big game. Jaden Daniels in a losing effort, 255 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He also had 48 yards on 6 carries and a touchdown to lead the way rushing. And Zach Ertz had 11 receptions, 104 yards, no touchdowns, but, a good performance against his former team here. As for the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts, 20-28, 246 yards, 1 touchdown. He also rushed for 3 touchdowns. But so did Saquon Barkley, 15 carries, 118 yards, 3 touchdowns, including touchdowns on his first 2 carries of the game. And then A.J. Brown, 6 receptions, 96 yards, and 1 touchdown. So, first of all, congrats to the Commanders. No one really thought they would be here at this stage, after a year where they picked second overall in the draft to come out and make it all the way to the NFC Championship. Valiant effort by the Commanders there. As for the Eagles, I think a lot of people thought they could be very competitive. They could compete for a Super Bowl. And once the Lions got knocked out and once they beat the Rams, I don't know. I felt like this was a likely outcome of this NFC Championship game. I bet on the Eagles to cover I think it was like a 6.5 point spread. I felt very comfortable with that. And the Eagles, once again, are able to just bully the Commanders on the ground. I think it was like, they showed us that it was like 230 yards, and then their backup, like third string running back, ripped off another one, and it ended up being, just an absurd amount of rushing yards for the Eagles here in this game. Jalen Hurts, he rushed for 3 touchdowns, and they weren't all touch pushes. They were mostly touch pushes, but they weren't all touch pushes. There was some good running there. And Saquon Barkley, what in addition to this team? I know a lot of people are very down on the Giants for letting him go, but the Giants are not a Saquon Barkley away from being a Super Bowl team or even really a competitive team. It's unfortunate that he signed with the Philadelphia Eagles for them since they're in, the same division. But he, is just an absolute freak of nature. Really one of the best running back seasons we've ever seen. And he will give the Eagles an opportunity to compete with the Kansas City Chiefs in this Super Bowl to potentially bring it home to Philadelphia. So I think just an amazing year for the Eagles. They've now made 2 Super Bowls out of the last 3 Super Bowls. They're just, they're just a great team. And I think, you got to give them as much credit as possible here in the before the Super Bowl. You just got to give them as much credit as possible. What will happen in the Super Bowl? I don't know. Patrick Mahomes feels like he's undefeatable. He feels inevitable. But I do think this Philadelphia team, there's a path to victory, and that path to victory is just taking the air out of the ball, running it down the Kansas City Chiefs' throats. That'll be very difficult given their defensive line is very talented, given, Steve Spagnuolo is a very good coordinator. But if you can control the time of possession, if you can rush for over 200 yards like they did here, if you can just keep the ball out of Patrick Mahomes' hands, you can win the Super Bowl. So I hate that it's 2 weeks in between. I know it's better for preparation and better for people to return from injuries and all that, but I want the Super Bowl now. I want to see how this all plays out. So, if you're a Commanders fan, what are your thoughts on the season in general? I imagine you have to be pretty happy given that you probably didn't think you'd make it this far. And if you're an Eagles fan, how are you feeling? 17-3 on the season now. One win away from winning the second Super Bowl in franchise history. And maybe, you know, maybe the best team they've ever had. I don't know. The one 2 years ago was also good and they lost. And the one that won the Super Bowl with Nick Foles, also pretty great. So some great Eagles teams here. And yeah, the Andy Reid Bowl 2.0. So let me know your thoughts about all of that in the comments. Moving on to the AFC Championship game, the Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Buffalo Bills 32-29 to advance to their third straight Super Bowl. They've made what, 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls. They're just, an unstoppable force in the AFC, looking to be the first team to ever three-peat. But let's talk about this game for now. Josh Allen, 237 yards, 2 touchdowns. James Cook, 13 carries, 85 yards, 2 touchdowns. Matt Collins, an absolute stud in this game, 3 receptions, 73 yards, and 1 touchdown. Patrick Mahomes, 245 yards, a touchdown. Kareem Hunt, 64 yards and 17 carries, and a touchdown. And Xavier Worthy, 6 receptions, 85 yards, and 1 touchdown. So this game, significantly more interesting than the NFC Championship game for a myriad of reasons. Chief, no pun intended, among them is the narrative that Josh Allen can't beat the Chiefs. They've lost 4 in a row to the Kansas City Chiefs. Really got their heart broken a few tries ago in that 13-second score to force overtime game. But every year that they meet in the playoffs, and you're like, maybe this is the year that they get over the hump. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid are right there to just stiff arm them back down, to bring them back down to earth. And I know this was a rebuilding year on paper for the Bills, and maybe that can soften the blow a little bit. But like, if I was a Bills fan, I would hate Patrick Mahomes. I'm a Dolphins fan, so to me, honestly, I kind of am fine with seeing the Bills lose. And look, the Bills beat the crap out of my Dolphins at least once a year, sometimes twice a year. So imagine me not being particularly sympathetic to the Buffalo Bills when they lose in these moments. But I do, if I can try to take a step back out of my fandom and look at it like, what if I were in this position? I would be sad. I would hate the Chiefs. But yeah, tough times for the Bills. I mean, I think they'll be back. As long as they have Josh Allen, they can win any game. And that includes any playoff game. They almost won this one. But that being said, they had 3 timeouts, down 3 points with 3 minutes left, over 3 minutes left. And they ended up turning the ball over on downs. And I think that is a negative indictment on the Bills, on Josh Allen, on their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady. And I think like that spot, if you reverse it and you give the ball to Mahomes, you're confident he puts the dagger in, he scores a touchdown. If not, he at least gets a field goal to force overtime there. So that last play also, I mean, unfortunate. 2 men came completely unblocked, and the throw could have been better, but Dalton Kincaid, he's got to catch that ball. It hit him in the arms. I know it was a tough catch, but like, it was probably an easier catch than Mark Andrews last week, where I said he needs to be catching that ball to tie the game for the Ravens. He was at least coming back to it and hit him like in the forearms. So very disappointing there. Very Bills way to have the season end for them. On the flip side, Patrick Mahomes, man, this guy is unreal. He's now played 7 straight AFC Championship games. This is his 5th Super Bowl appearance. He has 3 Super Bowl rings, beat the 49ers twice, beat the Eagles once. Maybe he's going to beat the Eagles again. At 4, he's only 29 years old. I never thought I would see anybody like Brady, and now I'm convinced I'm seeing someone better than Brady. Obviously, the longevity plays into it, but at 29, he's already the second winningest playoff quarterback of all time with 17 wins. Brady has 35, of course. So that's like the thing. It's like, okay, will he just continue this clip that we've never seen before? No one's ever played like this. He's one of one in this. Or will we have a mid-career lull in the same way that Tom Brady had a mid-career lull? How long is Andy Reid going to coach for? He's an older guy. And can you find someone to be as good as Andy Reid when, you know, he does eventually retire? That's the big, like, overall questions, but not something we have to address in the moment here for Patrick Mahomes in any ways. I think, you know, just an outstanding performance. Like I said, 29-29, you give him the ball, he gets that field goal, he gets the dagger, he gets the first down after the Bills turn the ball over on downs. He's just amazing. 101. There are a lot of people who are complaining about the Bills getting ripped off by the refs on the spotting of a potential first down, and I think that's legitimate. I think there's a gripe. I think there really needs to be an emphasis on looking at potentially implementing a system to track the ball where it's not just coming down to what the ref sees, because those two refs, the two line judges on either side, they had different spots for the ball, and they ended up going with the one that went against the Bills, which is very disappointing if you're a Bills fan. So I think that's legitimate for sure. And then there's other people who are like, hey, good for the Chiefs, good for Patrick Mahomes. Can't stand him. Can't stand the Chiefs. Can't stand this prolonged success. I certainly understand that. For me, it's not as bad as when the Patriots were doing it. I live in Massachusetts. I'm a Dolphins fan. I got to see firsthand all of that dynasty unfold from beginning to end. And it was exceedingly frustrating as a viewer, as a fan, to watch Brady always get it done. So for me, I'm kind of like, oh, maybe Patrick Mahomes will pass Brady. Maybe that'll be great. That will heal me in some ways. But other than that, I do understand why you'd be frustrated, especially if you're a Bills fan, especially if you're a Ravens fan, especially if you're a fan of anyone in the AFC West. And the only way I got through it with Brady, and it took a lot of like pure hatred in settling that down to get to this point, but the only way I got through it was just being like, this is a run that will never be duplicated. He's one of one. It's historic. They'll never see someone like that. I was wrong. We would see Patrick Mahomes almost immediately be better than that. But there is still the question of longevity. Will he be able to pull that off? We shall see. But that was kind of my coping mechanism of like, I'm an NFL fan. I love football. I'm going to appreciate greatness while greatness is here. And maybe that doesn't work for everyone. And I totally understand that. So if you're a Bills fan, how do you feel about this loss? If you're a Chiefs fan, how do you feel about this win? Patrick Mahomes. And really, I just hope you're like not taking it for granted, because this is unprecedented. I really, really, really can't imagine anybody ever duplicating something like this. But I didn't think anyone could do what Brady did, and here's Mahomes outdoing him. So let me know your thoughts about all of that in the comments. So a very interesting thing happened this week. The the Las Vegas Raiders. It's in my head. It's fully ingrained. The Las Vegas Raiders hired Pete Carroll to be their head coach. And on the surface, it's like, wow, Pete Carroll, big name, Super Bowl champion, spent 13, 14 years with the Seahawks, had a dynasty at USC, won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks, got to another one. Always had the Seahawks, very competitive, good hire. Finally, like potentially a great head coach for the Raiders here. On the other hand, he's 73 years old. That is quite old, period. But especially for a coach, I get he's like active and with it and all of that, but like, is this a long-term strategy for success? And if it's not, like, what's the move here? Because they don't, they're not like a team that's just a head coach away from winning a Super Bowl. This Raiders squad probably has to be pretty stripped down and pretty like reconfigured in the image of Pete Carroll, how he wants the team to be. I heard, or not, I read an article that maybe Pete Carroll will bring Russell Wilson in. I don't know. I don't know if things ended great with Russell Wilson, but that's interesting to be sure. Though I do think he's on the back half downside of his career now. But yeah, very fascinating. Like, who could have seen this coming type of a situation for the Las Vegas Raiders to hire? I mean, Tom Brady, he's in there now. Maybe he'll come out of retirement and try to hold off Patrick Mahomes in that AFC West. Probably not. He has a lot of money on the table with Fox, but just an extremely interesting decision. And I mean, Pete Carroll, he's a great coach. 170, 120 and 1 is a record. 11-11 in the postseason, Super Bowl champion. Went to another Super Bowl, as I said. But just kind of an interesting, unexpected move as far as I'm concerned here. If you're a Raiders fan, how are you feeling about Pete Carroll being your head coach? 73-year-old Pete Carroll, specifically being your head coach. Let me know in the comments. All right, I want to move to the Miami Minute, where we cover my favorite team, the Miami Dolphins. This week, we got kind of an interesting story to report on. The Titans are hiring Reggie McKenzie, who was an executive in the scouting department for the Miami Dolphins. And he interviewed with the Titans a couple weeks ago, but he didn't get it. But he's being brought in a senior scouting role for the Titans. And while, that's obviously great for McKenzie, advancing his career in the front office, even if it's not going back to being a GM like he was with the Raiders, it is, an interesting move. From the Dolphins' perspective, should we be concerned that people are potentially jumping ship in the executive offices? Like, should this be something that we look out for as Dolphins fans? I mean, there definitely seems to be a palpable feeling of this team very much needs to win this season. And if they don't, the house is getting cleaned. Is that accurate? Is that not? Hard to say. But I think that's at least the feeling that we all get from what's been happening these last few seasons, that this season is going to matter more than any. And if someone who is high up in the organization is leaving for like a slight promotion at best, a lateral move potentially. I mean, like I said, if he had gone to the Titans and been a GM, like, he interviewed for, like he was with the Raiders, I would have been like, yeah, this makes sense. You want to be a GM, that's higher up than being a senior personnel executive as he was with the Dolphins. But I am a little concerned. I'm a bit worried that he is going to be like the first in a dam of people leaving, like this is the first crack. So what are your thoughts on that? Let me know in the comments. And then the other big thing for the Dolphins this week is Tyreek Hill on stream on Twitch, playing game, responded about his outbursts, and he said, he's a winner and he deserves to feel that way after the season that they had. And it goes once again to like understandable Tyreek, one of the best players in the league, voted the number one player in the league last year by his peers. He's been outstanding for the Dolphins until this season, where he was not as good as he was in the past. He left the Chiefs, and I get that that's probably very frustrating to watch the Chiefs have all this sustained success without him. I'm sure in his mind, as in many of our minds, he thought, I'm a big reason why this Chiefs team is successful. I'm irreplaceable in some ways. And while the Chiefs offense perhaps isn't as potent, isn't as high powered as they were when Tyreek Hill was there, it hasn't changed how successful they've been, right? They're going to another Super Bowl. They're going to potentially be the first team to three-peat. That has to suck. And I'm sympathetic to a point. And that point is, he had a lot more money to come to Miami. He chose the money over the sustained success. And if you choose the money and you don't have success, you can't complain about not having success because you already chose the money. So, a little frustrating. Again, maybe he'll get traded this offseason. Again, it'd be very interesting given the fact that they are very committed financially to him. They would have a dead cap, but those are the two big news stories coming from the Dolphins. And I also wanted to announce that I'll be writing for dolphinstalk.com as a blogger. If all goes well today, as I write my first blog, it will go up on Tuesday. If not, I'm sure Wednesday it will be up. So go check out dolphinstalk.com. I'll leave a link in the description. And let me know your thoughts about Reggie McKenzie leaving. Is that cause for concern? Let me know your thoughts about Tyreek's comments on stream. Are you worried about him? And yeah, please show some support when I post the article to Twitter for Dolphins Talk, and you can follow me at the fake BMR, BMARR. So thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next segment. So there's been a lot of talk about how everyone's tired of the Chiefs, and I get it. As someone who lived through the Patriots dynasty, the 20 years of sustained success by a team that was my favorite team, the Dolphins rival. The Dolphins got their licks in occasionally, but, they lost twice as much as they won, which is better than any other team in the AFC East, and certainly better than the Bills, who only won 3 times ever against Tom Brady. But I understand being frustrated with, the stagnant product. It's a little bit like, Avengers fatigue, right? Very popular, and now we feel like we've seen the same thing over and over. We're not rushing out to the theaters because it's not a novel experience. And while I talked in an earlier segment, in an earlier video, if you're watching this as a clip, about how I kind of rationalized my enjoyment of the Patriots dynasty in the sense that it was like, this is historic, it's never going to be replicated, and how I think that's the only way you can really get through the Chiefs going to the Super Bowl. Just try to appreciate it for the historic event that it is. I certainly understand 3 straight Super Bowl appearances, 4 out of the last 5. And then this stat that I saw earlier today, 4 of the last 6 Super Bowls have either been the Chiefs versus the 49ers or the Chiefs versus the Eagles. The only other one that included them was the Tampa Bay Chiefs game where Tampa Bay and Tom Brady just took it to them. It wasn't really close, but this is once again Chiefs versus Eagles. Not that interesting from a novel perspective. I certainly understand people being frustrated with that. I'm even a little bit frustrated. Granted, first and foremost, I am a hater. I'm not a Bills fan. Like I said, I'm a Dolphins fan. The Bills beat the Dolphins pretty handily at least once a year, if not twice. So am I sad to see the Bills lose? No. I'm a big Lamar Jackson fan, though. And I hate when the Chiefs beat him like they did last year in the AFC Championship game. It's very interesting because I try to look at it like the Brady era, and obviously Mahomes is above that in terms of blocking people. But, Josh Allen's a little bit Peyton Manning. Lamar Jackson's a little bit Big Ben. Then, I mean, there's really no one else. There's no Phillip Rivers really in the AFC right now, but Tom Brady limited those players from winning multiple Super Bowl titles. Big Ben got 2. Phillip Rivers got 0. Peyton Manning got 2 on Tom Brady's watch and went to another 2. But Patrick Mahomes is just like not even giving the Bills or the Ravens a chance to make it to the Super Bowl, to win or lose there. So very interesting to kind of compare it to where he's just like dominant on another level, on a level that we've never seen before. So I certainly understand the Chiefs' fatigue. Are you feeling it? Are you frustrated? Let me know. Use the comment section to vent, because I can understand why you would be. And if you're a Chiefs fan, there are 2 things. I need Chiefs fans to understand you. You're the villains now. Everybody hates you. It might not feel fair, but this is just what success brings. Don't be an asshole about it. Don't be like one of those people who are like rubbing it in. Don't be like a Pats fan. And then to you Patriots fans, talking to all of you around social media, who are saying things like, the Patriots dynasty wasn't nearly this annoying. Yes, it was. You all were so annoying to deal with during the 20-year run of the Patriots. I hated dealing with you. I hated the arrogance, and Chiefs fans aren't quite as arrogant, but they're getting there, of course, as anyone would with this sustained success. But don't use this as a way to rewrite history, because I was there. I saw how annoying Patriots fans were and how annoying the Patriots dynasty was. Don't let recency bias cloud your judgment. So let me know. Are you feeling the Chiefs fatigue? Leave it in the comments. So thank you all so much for checking out this episode of the We Are Good Sports podcast after the AFC and NFC championship game. Lots to talk about. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, check out my work at dolphinstalk.com and follow me on Twitter at @thefakebmar, BMARR, and on Blue Sky, search Brian Marr. You'll hopefully be able to find me pretty easily by doing that. Other than that, thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next one.